Welcome to Decoding Multisyllabic Words for grades 3 through 5. I'm Robin Dixon, District Pre-K through 5th grade ELA consulting teacher, and I will be your presenter for this session. Please note that there will be places in the presentation for you to pause, jot, and reflect. You may do that individually, or if you are viewing this presentation with another new staff member via Zoom or another platform, you may also pause and reflect with your colleagues. Let's begin by looking at our learning intention for today. We are learning to use and apply a decoding strategy to multisyllabic words so we can support our students when they encounter words they do not know. You will be successful when you can, 1, recognize student prior CR success phonics instruction, 2, identify and apply the 6 syllable types to decoding, 3, apply multisyllabic decoding strategies to real and nonsense words, and finally, teach a multisyllabic decoding strategy to students using real and nonsense words. Should you have questions throughout this presentation, please write them down and plan to bring them with you to the live follow-up Zoom session that will occur the week of July 27th. So let's stop, pause, and reflect about what you already know about decoding. So take a moment to pause and write down your thoughts. When you are ready, proceed to the next slide. So what did you already know about decoding? Did you write down any of these ideas? Explicit instruction, multisyllabic words, phonics. These are just a few ideas. You may have written down many more. Let's begin by looking at where students come to you in grades 3 through 5 as far as phonics instruction. In Topeka Public Schools, pre-K through 2nd grade students use CR Success for phonics instruction. It is an explicit and systematic phonics program that occurs 30 minutes a day. It also teaches syllable types, prefixes, and suffixes. In the CR Success program, students use magnet boards that help students to use a hands-on manipulative to learning phonics skills, and you'll see an example of a board on the screen. You'll also see that this one shows prefixes, digraphs, vowel teams, etc. So that would be a second grade CR Success board. So if you could pause the video and take just a moment to watch the attached bit.ly, and by putting that into your browser, you will see a short demonstration of how a CR Success board works so that you will have an understanding of what your students have done prior to coming to you in grades 3 through 5. When you're ready, go to the next slide. So I'd like you to hit pause again and take a few minutes to watch this video of a whole class instruction. And when you are ready, you can proceed to the next slide. This video is going to show you what instruction might look like in a whole class setting, which is how CR Success is delivered. So let's pause and reflect on CR Success. What did you learn about how students learn phonics in grades pre-K through 2, and why is that important for you to know? When you are ready, proceed to the next slide. So why did we spend a few minutes talking about decoding in the primary grades? Well, number one, we know that students will still need instruction in some of these skills areas. We know that all students may not have mastered skills in the primary grades, and you will need to build on that. And also, you are building on this knowledge by helping students to decode multisyllabic words. In other words, decoding words with 2 or more syllables. When we look at intermediate students in decoding, we have to keep these things in mind. 1, the focus becomes longer and more challenging words with 2 or more syllables. And we must offer older students information on how to break the code in order to efficiently and effectively read longer words. We don't want it to be a secret. We need to show them how to decode those longer words. So look at these 3 words. Can you decode these words? And which are sight words for you? When we define a sight word is simply a word that we know by looking at it by sight. Which are the ones that you had to sound out? And which ones were sight words for you and which ones were not? Encyclopedia, university, sesquipedalian. I don't know about you, but the last one, I definitely had to sound out into syllables as it was not part of my sight vocabulary. So let's take a moment to define a syllable. We've used this word syllable, multisyllabic word, so let's talk about what a syllable is. A syllable is simply a unit of pronunciation having one vowel sound with or without consonants, forming the whole or part of a word. Some people also think about syllables when they think of poetry. They think of it as the beats in a poem. For example, roses are red has 4 syllables in that poetry line. So you will see it referred to in poetry quite often. So let's take a moment to break down these words. So it says, how many syllables in each of the following words? Poetic. Poetic has 3 syllables. Po-et-ic. Appreciated. That's a hard one. Appreciated. That word has 5 syllables. Incredible has 4. Incredible. Now here's a fun little note. What are some of the longest one-syllable words in the English language? Look at this list to see. Screeched, for example. Notice that the length of a syllable is not defined by the length of the word. These are long words, but they are simply one syllable. So let's look at a couple of critical skills that students need to have. First of all, students need to know how to break words into syllables orally. Again, that is something that students work on in the primary grades, especially our pre-K kinder friends, looking at how we manipulate language orally. The difference between vowels and consonants. You might be quite surprised to find out how many students, even in the intermediate grades, struggle to remember vowels versus consonants. Ask your students, what are the vowels? And see what they say. You might see that a few students have to ponder for a moment. And students also need to know how to spell real and nonsense single syllable words. And we know that that foundational instruction is in grades K through 2. In grades K 3 through 5, you are working on spelling real and nonsense words with multi-syllables. Also, it's important to know that when we look at phoneme, there are 44 phonemes in the English language. A phoneme is simply the smallest unit of sound in a word. So if we take those 44 phonemes, it is how those phonemes join together that create words, and that by teaching students those 44 phonemes, it's also how students can break the code to reading. So why is it important for students to know syllable types? We've talked about syllables and we're going to delve into the 6 syllable types, but why do students need to know this? Well, first of all, it speeds up their decoding. They're able to more rapidly read the words. It increases accuracy and fluency. By fluency, we mean that they're not having to stop, pause, and sound out every single word. And accuracy, they're reading the word as it is. It also avoids guessing. Sometimes students will guess at a word or make a close approximation. Or a student might see a multisyllabic word and be able to decode the first syllable, but not the second, for example. And it also improves spelling and increases comprehension. So we have to teach our students every syllable has a vowel sound, and every written syllable has 1 or more letters that spell the vowel sound. So let's look at our vowel sound basics. Number 1, A, E, I, O, and U are almost always vowels. That's a given. Now, Y can act as a consonant or a vowel. It acts like a vowel when it's making a vowel sound. So if we look at happy, the Y is making the long E sound. In rhythm, it is making the short I. In the word cry, the Y is making the long I sound. And U is not a vowel when it comes after Q, because Q and U always work together as a team. So if your students do not know these vowel letter basics, we need to teach them. So it is okay to teach students these rules if they are needing additional instruction at the intermediate grades. If we look at the vowel sound of schwa, it is the most common vowel sound in English, and many multisyllabic words contain this schwa sound. It's also considered lazy vowel, and we'll see that in just a moment and why. So in the schwa, it is not making a true long or short vowel sound as it should. It's making kind of a blended sound. So if we look at model, notice that the in model, not making a short E as we would expect. Pentagon, the A is the schwa. Notice that it's not making the short or the long A. Subtropical, notice the A in subtropical, not making that A sound. And pentagon, again, that A is not making the A sound. So that is why a schwa is considered a lazy vowel. We also need to make sure that students in the older grades know how to flex the vowel. So that means when they're reading a word, they need to try it as a short vowel sound, try it as a long vowel sound, and try it as a schwa. Which one makes the word real? So now we're going to delve into the 6 syllable types. So I'd like you to stop, pause, and reflect about what you know about the 6 syllable types. Do you know all 6 of them? Have you taught them? Write down what you know, and when you are ready, proceed to the next slide. So did you list any of the following syllable types? Open, close, vowel consonant E, vowel silent E, vowel teams or R-controlled vowel. If you listed any or all of those, good for you. As we go through, we're going to do a brief review of those. And if you did not know the the syllable types, now we're going to learn those. The first type of syllable we have is a closed syllable. And a closed syllable is a vowel followed by one or more consonants. And closed syllables always make the short vowel sound. If we look at these examples, cat, we see the short A followed by a T. In lost, we see the short O followed by S and T. And in pups, we see the short U followed by one or more consonants. And a short vowel or closed syllable has a short vowel, and notice that that sound is always stopped. If I look at cat, notice that the T stops the short A. If I look at lost, the S in S stops the O sound. An open syllable is a syllable that ends in a vowel and always makes a long vowel sound. The breath can continue on. So for example, if I look at potato, po, te, to. There are 3 open syllables. And notice that if I say po, tato, the O, the long O can go on until I'm out of breath. That is another sign of an open syllable. D-E, D as in the word defend, and so as in the word soda are open syllables. Another type of syllable is an R-controlled vowel syllable. Now, this always is a vowel followed by the letter R. We can have any of the 5 vowels with the R, the E, the I, the O, the A, or the U. And sometimes the vowel sound is heard, and sometimes it is not. So let's look at the examples to see how that is. And sometimes a new vowel sound is created. So if I take AR, as in the word farm, I am making a new sound. Notice that R is kind of a pirate sound. OR, or, as in the word torn. Notice that I do hear that long O. But in the word turn, notice that I do not hear the U, I just hear the sound. So R-controlled vowels tend to be the tricky one, and 3rd grade students especially need additional instruction on R-controlled vowels because it is a tricky vowel syllable type. So 3rd grade teachers take note about R-controlled vowels. The next syllable type is consonant LE. And this consonant LE is always the final syllable in a word. And there is always a consonant with the LE. and there is no vowel sound. We said that a consonant always has a vowel, but notice that the vowel doesn't always make a sound, just like it didn't with our controlled vowels, such as the word turn. So let's look at the word tickle. C-K-L-E goes with tickle. We kept the C and the K together because we know those letters work together to make the one sound. Z-L-E as in puzzle. That first syllable would be P-U-Z, and the second syllable would be Z-L-E because we divide double consonants in the middle. And F-L-E as in the word rifle. Silent E syllable. This is always a vowel consonant, a consonant vowel consonant silent E pattern. The vowel always makes the long sound, as in bike, rude, and pale. So you'll notice those all have consonant, vowel, consonant, silent E. So that was just a brief overview of the 6 syllable types. So please take a moment to pause, stop, and reflect about what you learned about the 6 syllable types. Do you think that is something that you're going to need to teach to your students? And how would you plan on teaching those to your students? If you need additional instruction on syllable types, your colleagues in your grade level or your instructional coach would be valuable resources to help you with this. So you may pause, and when you are ready, proceed to the next slide. So we are going to delve into a strategy called Spot and Dot. This is an exciting strategy to teach 3rd through 5th grade students so that they have the knowledge needed to efficiently sound out multisyllabic words. So let's look at the positives. First of all, it helps students to break down long words into syllables. It also gives older students a decoding strategy. And it can also be applied to most words. A word of warning though, a word of caution. It is not always perfect, and that's where flexing the vowel comes in. We talked about sometimes we might have to make a little variation from a long vowel sound to a short vowel sound, for example. It's also dependent on the critical skills, and it does not work with foreign language words. So take a moment to watch the bit.ly below, and you're going to see a teacher walking through this with a student through the spot and dot process. And as you view, I would like you to think about what did you notice and what did you wonder. This would be a great place if you have questions that you would like to bring to the live Zoom. Be sure to do so. Also, if you're watching this with a colleague, take the time to share with the video learning with your colleague. When you are ready and have watched the bit.ly and the video, you may proceed to the next slide. So you'll notice that the questions that were asked, how many vowels do you see? Are they together or apart? How many syllables? Draw a line for each syllable. Write one syllable on each line. Read each syllable slowly. Blend the syllables into a word and read the word. Notice those are the strategies, the questions that we want students to get used to when they come to a word that they do not know that has 2 or more syllables. So these are questions that we want to teach students to start asking themselves automatically. Now, I am going to walk you through spot and dot with closed and open syllables. So if we're looking at a closed syllable, again, we're going to ask the same questions. Notice that in the 5th bullet point down, in closed syllables, we ask the question, look between the vowels. Where do I split the syllable? Usually between 2 consonants. I have created a bit.ly for you that shows how to spot and dot closed syllables. So please take a moment to watch this short video about helping students spot and dot closed syllable words. So if we look at those closed syllable words, here's an example of how we would divide some closed syllable words that are nonsense words and real words. And notice that in the nonsense word wibnuff, notice that we have 2 closed syllables, 2 vowels surrounded by consonants. And in the real words, exactly the same way. Now, You might ask yourself, why use nonsense words? Nonsense words help us to know if students have truly mastered the syllable type. We want to know that they know the syllable type, not that they know it by sight. So nonsense words help us to know if students truly know how to sound out closed syllables, as well as the other syllable types. Spot and dotting open syllables. Again, I see the same question until I get to the 5th bullet, and it says, look between the vowels. Where do I split the syllable? Try splitting the syllable after the vowel. This will be an open syllable with a long vowel sound. So we also have now flux the sound, which means if I said it short, I need to try to say it long. Because again, it's not an exact science all the time. So we need to teach students to flux their vowels. Now I have created a video for you about spotting and dotting open syllables. So please go to this bit.ly, type it in your browser, and watch how to spot and dot open syllables. All right, let's look at some examples for open syllables. You'll see again some examples of dividing nonsense words and dividing real words. Again, this strategy is designed to help teach students how to decode these different syllable types in words. On this page, I have 4 other videos for you where I demonstrate how to spot and dot silent E syllables, vowel team syllables, our controlled vowel syllables, and consonant silent E. So you may take a moment to watch each video about spotting and dotting those syllable types. When you have finished, you may go on to the next slide. Other decoding strategies that we can teach students are as follows. We can teach them to look for blends and digraphs. We can teach them to look for word families. At, for example, the at family. We can teach them to look for roots and affixes. Does the word have a prefix or does the word have a suffix? We know that that's a standalone syllable. We know that roots are standalone syllables. We can also teach students to look for compound words. Break that word into 2 smaller words. So let's review our learning intention for today. Today, we learned to use and apply a decoding strategy to multisyllabic words so we can support our students when they encounter words they do not know. You are successful if you can recognize that students had prior instruction and see our success, when you can identify and apply the 6 syllable types to decoding, when you can apply multisyllabic decoding strategies to real and nonsense words, and when you can teach spot and dot decoding strategy to students. I want to thank you for watching this presentation, and please remember that we will have a live Zoom link where you can bring questions and concerns that you have for teaching this strategy to your students. I will be available during that time to answer any questions that you have, and I would also love to come to your classroom and model this strategy for you and your students so that your 3rd through 5th grade students can effectively decode multisyllabic words.